can't believe I'm about to say this, but Call of Duty is actually listening to their community. Call of Duty just released an update that quite possibly might change the trajectory of what we think about Call of Duty and their ability to ever listen to any feedback. I've been pretty vocal about my opinion on Call of Duty over the last 3 years, and whether they do good or do bad, I always let them know. And when I tell you I've been cooking them over the last week, oh, I've been cooking them. But I am pleasantly surprised to say they've added a couple things that we've all been asking for, and I'm genuinely excited. Let's get into it. Let's start off with the first thing, and that is they have changed the movement system to make things more fluid. The amount of feedback that has been given to Call of Duty has been insane. At Call of Duty Next, I personally gave the developers feedback on what I think was wrong with the game at the time. One of the biggest things was that movement felt clunky and not snappy. Warzone then came out months later, and it still felt the exact same way. I'm sure you can pull up any YouTube comments and you'll all see movement sucks, movement feels clunky, movement feels gross. So they have finally addressed this. In the movement section here, they say reduce the minimum sprint time required to perform the following actions: dive to prone or slide. At face value, this might not seem like the craziest deal, but when put into actual practice, this is actually insane. Before I explain what this actually changed, I'm gonna show you guys a couple videos of people reacting to this. First and foremost, Diaz Biffle.
Okay, it definitely feels way better. Actually way better. You can insta dive now, you can insta slide. It feels great, but then whenever you go to like mantling random like sometimes you're doing pull-ups, other times you just insta mantle. Like I don't really understand that. And then bro, if you don't have auto mantle on, Hector, these Nuketown houses over here, bro, you're actually cooked trying to get through the windows. I had to put auto mantle on just for this one building over here. Right here, you cannot hop through these windows, bro, without that mantle on. And I don't like having that mantle. I never had it on in the last Warzone.
Next, I'm gonna show you YouTuber Jay Coochie's reaction, as he's been really vocal about how bad the movement has been since the launch of the game.
Here we go. This is my daily Twitter video on movement. Tax sprint delay completely fixed. Just played a full game with it. Before this movement update that just went live at 10 p.m. You couldn't tax sprint every single time if you spammed it. Like boom, 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 boom. Didn't look like that at all. 100% fixed. Tax sprint delay is on 0. What it used to look like was like this sometimes. Completely fixed now. Okay, just so everybody's aware. Let's go. Thank you, Call of Duty.
So what exactly did they fix? Here is T-Captain's video explaining how things were before and what needed to be changed.
All right, so this is one of my biggest gripes or problems that I have with the kind of movement system, especially diving and tax sprint when it comes to Black Ops 6. So if I'm standing still and I want to quickly sprint and dive, if I'm playing on hybrid right now, so for me, I need to press L3 and then hit my slide or dive button. I cannot just quickly do this. If I try to quickly L3 and dive, my guy just stops and crouches. You have to run for a moment and then dive. And so this prevents you from doing some cool stuff. Whereas let's say I wanted to quickly maybe dive out to the side here. I can't just quickly do that. I have to get momentum and go and dive. And the same thing is true with sliding. So if I wanted to just quickly, you know, strafe right and slide cancel out, I can't. I have to get momentum, and it's a lot. Like you have to get sprinting for a full maybe half second or so before you can do any input. You're gonna see I'm getting all these dead slides here, and I've noticed this has increased a lot, especially into the second week of the beta. Whereas if we jump over to MW3 and Warzone, it's a lot easier for to make these quick movements. So I barely have to move forward. I have to basically just press L3, and basically as long as I'm pressing L3, even if I'm like pretty much standing still, you can get right into a dive. And same with sliding. You can just, I'm playing on auto tax sprint, as basically as soon as I press forward, I can slide. Now there still are dead slides, and I think that is an issue, but the delay from being able to sprint and then do a movement like sliding or diving is a lot less in MW3.
When put into actual practice, this is actually a pretty big change. The amount of times where you're playing the game and you're trying to slide away or slide to somebody and then you get stuck in a crouch. The big reason for that is because they added this big delay to tactical sprinting, which for those of y'all that don't know, you cannot slide without tactical sprinting. So in turn, they increased the time it took to actually slide or dive. Now they have completely removed that delay, and again, I am actually incredibly shocked. One of the questions that always arise is, was it enough? And there's a couple creators that had different opinions on this. T-Captain said, the update that just went live seems to have directly addressed these issues. After briefly testing, it does feel significantly better. Being cautiously optimistic though, because I said this was fixed after Saturday night's update, and then it got worse later somehow. Still noticing a delay going into your tac sprint despite having tac sprint assist on with delay set to 0 though. So on one hand, you have YouTubers like Chuki saying the delay is completely removed and that the game feels amazing. Then on the other hand, you have YouTubers like T-Captain that says, yeah, it was reduced a little bit, but it still has a little bit of delay. I would personally try this out for yourself and let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Regardless, we are heading in the right direction. And J-God seems to agree here. He said, moving in the right direction in response to all the new movement changes coming. That was just one change to movement. The other, which I'm really happy about, is they fixed an issue that could result in being unable to sprint when performing several actions within a short amount of time. Here's a video that I took about a month ago explaining this issue. Okay, so I found this bug in the game. I don't think this was in the game yesterday. I played for 20 plus hours and I didn't notice it once. As soon as I hopped on the game today, I noticed this, right? All right. So pretty much, if you move your left stick too much in one direction, or in any direction for that matter, it puts you into a walking motion. So maybe I just do this, it automatically tactical sprint, right? If I just walk forward, automatically tactical sprint, right? If I do that twice, if I move my left stick twice, 1, 2, automatic tactical sprint. But for whatever reason, I don't know if this is a bug, you do 3 times forward, 1, 2, 3, it puts you in a slight walk, and then you can run. So, for example here, same thing. I go left as well. Same thing. Right side. Same thing. So if you switch in different directions, this might mess you up in gunfights. So if you like the strafe twice, it's fine. But if you do it 3 times, it puts you into a walk. So I don't know if that's intentional. I don't think that was in the game yesterday. Same thing forward. So this 1, 2, 3, walk. 1, 2, 3, walk. 1, 2, 3, walk. It works good if you're doing Omni, but then you have to stop, shoot. It's gonna put you in dead slides like that. Then to conclude the movement section, they said, these changes apply to Black Ops 6 and Warzone and should result in more responsive movements with fewer occurrences where players attempt to dive to prone or slide and instead crouch, which is called a dead slide. We will continue to assess and identify areas for improved fluidity with Omni movement. Okay, so is anybody here kind of shocked that this happened? Every year, it feels like it's the same thing. We get an integration of Warzone and there's always an insane amount of bugs. The community complains about it all and it's just a repeating cycle. The only difference is now is that things are actually changing. And I'm not talking 2 to 3 months to make these changes. In the last week alone, they've improved the audio significantly, and not only that, help address these movement changes that were making everything feel clunky. I'm gonna be honest, I thought that these movement changes were probably never going to be changed. And maybe if the community complained enough, it would take 6 to 5 months to make anything happen. But to see these changes within the first week, I'm pleasantly surprised. I made a video earlier in the week where I was wondering, are they actually listening? I talked about how the audio was so bad, but they prioritized nerfing things like stims that nobody asked for. Fast forward a couple days and they've adjusted the audio and they've also adjusted movement. So is this year finally the year where our feedback is actually getting through to them? Moving on to more updates, there's actually another thing that I didn't think was coming anytime soon. They adjusted the reload times for Black Ops 6 assault rifles and light machine guns and reduced it by 10%. They said, we're taking passes at improving the flow and reducing downtime between gunfights. Future updates will address other classes. So there's a lot of stuff to break down here. For those of y'all who have played the game, reload times feel exceptionally long. People have made some claims that back in Modern Warfare, the original engine, reload speeds were anywhere from 1.3 to 1.5 seconds. And right now, they're at 3.4. I don't know how accurate those numbers are. I would have to check with J-God, but I will say reload speeds are definitely significantly slower from last year to this year. So seeing a change of 10%, we are headed in the right direction. But being completely transparent, is 10% enough? I tried the game after this patch, and personally, I think things could have been sped up just a little bit more. I will say, I do love that they said they are taking passes at improving the flow and reducing the downtime between gunfights. Even though I do think that 10% is not enough, this does seem to imply that they're going to be working on making things even more fluid, with the assault rifles and light machine guns being the first ones that they touch, and hopefully SMGs and every other gun class after that. With a lot of these changes being implemented, the question that I ask myself is what still needs to be changed now that they're actually making adjustments? Everybody has their own interpretation of what their dream Call of Duty looks like, but there are a couple things that I think the majority of the player base can agree on. For one change I do want to see is the animations for the munitions box and the plate boxes. I do think that for whatever reason during this integration, things didn't go the way as planned, and honestly, this made for probably one of the worst integrations that we've had in a long time. A lot of things went backwards, sadly, to the Modern Warfare 2 speeds. For example, things like munition boxes and armor boxes got their speeds adjusted. If you go into the game right now, if you throw a plate box or munition box, you're gonna notice it is incredibly slow. Compare last year to this year, and I promise you, it's double the speed. This is one thing that I do hope gets changed very, very soon, because it's a big reason why a lot of comments are saying this game has taken a step backwards during this integration. The next thing I would like to see is an increase to swap weapon speeds. This was formerly known as Amped last year in Modern Warfare 3, and when the Warzone integration happened last year, they made Amped a default perk. But now Black Ops 6 has removed the Amp perk, and there's nothing like it in the game. So because of that, every gun swaps incredibly slow. It doesn't matter whether you're going from an AR to an LMG or an LMG to an SMG, swap speeds, to put it simply, are just horrendous. I know they can't add a complete new perk to the game. Well, no, they probably can. But the more probable outcome is that they'll probably increase all the weapon swap speeds, which I think does need to happen. And again, there's a lot more, but these are my main ones. The last one that I think is the mantling speeds. Same thing that I've been saying, it's always 2 steps forward, 5 steps backwards. Mantling speeds during Modern Warfare 3's Warzone were absolutely amazing. This was a perk last year in the Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer, and they added this as a default perk when Warzone was integrated. Now, this year, there is no perk that increases mantling speeds, so whenever you play Warzone, mantling speeds are really, really slow. I'm talking Warzone 2 slow. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how developing a game works, but for whatever reason, it does seem like we got Modern Warfare 2 integrated with somehow Omni movement. With a lot of things being reverted back to the speeds of Modern Warfare 2, I'm curious to see, are we using the Modern Warfare 2 engine with Omni movement? When it comes to the animations, when it comes to the mantling speeds, when it comes to the weapon swap speeds, everything reminds me of Warzone 2. Don't get me wrong here, Raven and Treyarch have absolutely cooked with this movement update and the audio update, but I really hope they don't stop here. There are still so many problems that this game has, but I am hopeful with what they've been showing us that we're headed in the right direction here. I'm going to be completely transparent. Even with all these bugs, even with all these things that drive me insane, I don't feel like I've had this much fun playing Warzone in a very long time. Yes, there's a lot of bugs. Yes, it has its flaws, but honestly, I think this has the highest ceiling in a Call of Duty in a very long time. But like I've said in my previous videos, it really all depends on if Treyarch and Raven really want to cook up here. Are they listening? Are they taking everybody's feedback? And are things actually going to change? Or will we get another year like Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, where the community is in an outrage and they just don't care? Warzone 2, in my opinion, was genuinely one of the worst years ever for Call of Duty. From horrible gameplay mechanics, to incredible visual recoil, to the most absurd weapon smoke I've ever seen in my life, and honestly, the most slowest and clunky animations I've ever seen. A year went by and not really much changed. Sure, they made improvements, sure the game got better, but at the end of the day, the game was still Warzone 2. This year, with BO6's multiplayer success, I really do hope that that can be implemented into Warzone as well. We all know Verdansk is coming back, and I'm gonna be honest, they don't have much time to get the game right. Because if this game still has bugs, if this game still has cheaters, and things do not change by the time Verdansk comes back, this could be the end of Warzone.